Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome. So I could not get to this morning because of unforeseen issues. But I definitely wanted to cover it for y'all. This is the OSIRIS-REx sample return mission that has come highly anticipated. Did show on it the other day, and we tried to break down what's about to happen. So, yeah, what's up, amazing? Yeah, I put it, and then I was like, whatever. So I'm here. We're going to play this video through. So this happened this morning. I have not watched anything about it, due to other things going on. Life can be a bitch sometimes, but happens. So yeah, we're going to certainly take a look at this. Hopefully it went well. We're starting about T-minus 29 minutes. They give some good explanations, I think, from me just kind of scrolling through real quick, and then we'll kind of cut it off after when it looks like we should. So I'm going to get started, and I'll fill in the gaps if they don't explain anything well. So what's up, amazing? Jason and Light Rain, good to see y'all. They're up 10-3 going into the half. They're about to score again. So let's get into this.
Be so cool. All right, Sophia is standing at the forward edge of the recovery zone with an update. Take it away, Sophia.
All right, thank you, Lauren. We are under 20 minutes away from EDL. That is entry, descent and landing. And I don't think there's anyone here on planet Earth who has anticipated this day more than the principal investigator of the mission, Dante Loretta. Thank you for giving us time here today.
My pleasure. It's great to be here.
All right,
entry,
so
descent,
you're
and
here
landing.
on Wig Mountain because you are on
They
the
typically have an entire
team.
team
right.
for EDL.
Can you walk us through what you're
It's
going
a
to be doing
completely
today?
different
So I'm part of the environmental sampling group.
side
From
of rocket
day
science.
one, this mission has paid attention to keeping that sample pristine. And we're going to come down. We had some rain on Thursday. Most likely we're going to be encountering mud out there. We're also interested in the air quality and any water that might be standing, just so in the very rare event that any of that material somehow comes into contact with the sample, we have a record of it and it won't compromise our science.
Oh, wonderful. And I think one of the really exciting things about a mission like this, especially
So what they're
with
basically
you
saying
working
is
with the University
anything-
of Arizona, is that you're partnering with educational
I'll do it at
institutions.
the end.
So can you talk a little bit about the legacy that a mission like this has?
I don't care about the legacy. So what they're saying is they've categorized the landing area. They know what elemental composition's there. So if there's anything at all that could interfere, then theoretically they could separate out the chemical makeup of the water or the mud or that and exclude it from the sample. So if the sample gets contaminated in some way, they can exclude the sample from so when they're breaking it down and doing their data piece, they'll just exclude the chemical makeup or the composition of the mud and anything that could have affected. So, like crater sensors mud, it certainly could. Depends where they're going to set it down. So,
To go on that recovery
Yeah,
process.
big moment's almost here.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck out there today.
Thank you.
All right.
so they'll likely
back to you, Lauren.
sample. They'll likely
Great,
sample
thanks,
around the
Sophia.
area
Wow,
as well.
I can't wait for Dante
So.
to get his moment in the sun.
Goes
No
Dante.
matter what
That is
happens.
amazing. All
So they
right,
have a
so Jim,
chemical
the whole
signature.
OSIRIS-REx spacecraft is not coming back today, right? It's just a
Absolutely.
part of it.
That's right. This is the whole spacecraft, 40 feet long, the size of a school bus. But this special little thing here, the sample return capsule, is bringing home the goodies. And that's what we've just released, and it will be
creeps me
entering the
out a little
atmosphere, and you'll be hearing all about it. And the samples were collected at the asteroid back in October of 2020 from this TAGSAM thing that inserted them in the capsule, and the capsule was released. So that's what comes home. The rest of this, goes on to Apophis.
That's right. We just heard Lori talk about that. But let's move over and take a look at this this replica SRC capsule. Now, this was an engineering model that was used in tests a few weeks ago for a drop test. Can you talk a little bit about the engineering of this?
That's right. This is a very special spacecraft, just like a small version of what we use to bring crews back when they come back home to Earth from the space station. It has a heat shield. It's about 30 inches across, so it's pretty big. It weighs over 100 pounds. Has a back shell, and inside it has the goodies, the sample return canister and the sample cap, the small sample canister. So this is the vehicle that brings those samples protected from all those changes in environment from the top of the atmosphere, 13 minutes of descent to the touchdown point that we're waiting for today. This is a very special spacecraft.
It absolutely is, and it also was
so
used in a drop test, as I
vacuum
mentioned. Let's take a look at some of that footage now.
Right. So just
this
a
is
couple
their
weeks
test
ago,
that
we
we watched
dropped
the other
this
day.
replica, this engineering test unit, from 5,000 feet with a parachute deployment, and went through all the operations, the choreography we need to actually make sure we can do it today. And that's what's going to be coming up. And it worked wonderfully. We inflated the big 24-foot parachute. It floated down to the surface at 11 miles an hour. We went through all the recovery operations, the safing, the bagging, and the containment to come over to the clean room here, where we'll be doing that today to make sure those samples are from Bennu, so we can study them here on Earth and not contaminated by our wonderful Earth.
That's right, and you know it's the actual SRC that they use because it is covered in dirt, as you can see
Right.
on here.
This is dirt, scratch marks.
All the scratch marks, yeah.
It's a rough ride,
the real deal.
but we need it to come home. This
Absolutely.
is a real sort of
Hey, what's up,
homecoming.
Isabel?
Right. So there's a lot of science
to
in
see
missions
ya.
like this. Not only
Hope
is
you're
the
well.
SRC a treasure chest with material from the ancient solar system, but the mission itself is a platform for vital research about a range of things that you might not have expected.
SciFly's mission is to collect visual, infrared, and spectral data on spaceflight vehicles, including the OSIRIS-REx sample return capsule on its return to Earth. This gives engineers and scientists unique insight into our most challenging questions about hypersonic fluid dynamics by providing data critical to flight safety systems. The scientifically calibrated in-flight imagery team uses ground-based sensors and instruments flying on various aircraft to image asteroid sample returns, launch abort systems, parachute tests, rocket launches, and capsule returns, including Artemis 1 on both launch and reentry. The data we capture provides engineers with information on vehicle performance relative to what computational tools and wind tunnel tests predict. It takes extensive planning to get it right. Upon its return from the asteroid belt, the OSIRIS-REx capsule will be traveling at 12 kilometers per second, or about 27,000 miles per hour. That's nearly twice
That's
as fast
fast.
as objects coming back from low Earth orbit, and it will be among the 4 fastest human-made objects ever to fly in Earth's atmosphere.
Hopefully it lands right into you.
In partnership with the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, Rocket Technologies International, and universities in Australia and Germany, SciFly is coordinating 3 ground stations and 4 aircraft to collect data on the sample return capsule's trajectory, heat shield performance, and the plasma environment surrounding the capsule as it speeds to the surface, all of which will help NASA understand its performance and help future planetary entry
Damn,
missions.
that's a lot of. That's a lot.
Joining us now is NASA's Kate Calvin, Chief Scientist and Climate Advisor. Kate, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It is wonderful to have you. All right, so as NASA's Chief Scientist, you're looking at the big picture. How much teamwork across the agency has made to, a day like today a possibility?
A mission like this takes a big team, both within NASA and without. So outside of NASA. So the mission is managed by Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. The sample is going to be going to the Johnson Space Center in Texas after it leaves here. Marshall Space Flight Center in Alabama does the overall program management. Outside of NASA, we have collaborations both in industry, academia, and international. So Lockheed Martin is doing built the spacecraft and doing flight ops. Kinetics is doing navigation. We have a science team led by the University of Arizona. And then we have
Recovery operations.
Canada and Japan.
Helicopter 1 has
All of
departed
them are really
route
critical to
to
us.
station
And
keep
I'll just stop
outside
you
the
right
landing
there.
ellipse.
We got a confirmation that helicopters 1 and 2 have just taken off. Very exciting. All right.
So, Kate, one other thing. As an earth science and expert on how our planet works in climate, can you tell us how this asteroid mission and the samples we return might impact how we understand life on Earth, how it evolved, and how climate issues now might be involved?
Yeah, so this asteroid Bennu may record some of the earliest history of our solar system. So scientists are looking at it to help us understand planet formation and the origins of water and carbon, which led to life here on Earth.
That's incredible.
That is incredible. And, you know, Kate, I know you've been to several launches. That's our typical bread and butter here at NASA. But this is more of a homecoming. How does that feel to you?
It's great. The environment here is so nice. Being with
And
the
again,
team and
people have
thinking
spent their
about, you know,
entire
this
career
spacecraft launched
on this
7 years
mission.
ago,
Their
and now there's
entire
all this
career.
amazing science just around the corner.
Can you believe it? The team has really been working hard. And are you going to stick around for the show?
Awesome.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Kate, thank you
Why does
so
Lockheed
much
have their hands
for
in
joining
everything?
us.
Because
Thanks,
they're a
Dave, for all
legacy
you do.
contractor,
Thank you so
and
much.
NASA loves that.
This seems like a perfect time to dig into some more information about Bennu. Bennu isn't part of the main asteroid belt. It's a NEO, a near-Earth asteroid with an orbit that occasionally brings it in close proximity with us here on Earth. Bennu is about 500 meters in diameter, which is taller than the Empire State Building. It rotates upside down on its axis compared to Earth, with a tilt of over 177 degrees. Scientists chose to study Bennu because of its
Recovery
organic
operations. Helicopter
compounds
2
and
has
mineral
departed
codes.
WIG. The station keep outside the landing ellipse.
All right, so you just heard that they have departed WIG. Excellent
Whoa.
progress. Fantastic. All right. Moving on, it isn't as smooth a surface as we initially thought. It's actually covered in pebbles and
What do
marked
you
by
mean,
these
Mount
large
Doom?
rocks and boulders nearly everywhere. One boulder in particular that
Let's
OSIRIS-REx
see if
had
they
to
do it.
navigate around was nicknamed Mount Doom and was the size of a 2-story building. Bennu holds the Guinness World Record of the smallest object to be orbited by a spacecraft. How fun. Now let's get an update from Sophia,
Montoom
who is
is
standing on the
a
edge of the
huge
ellipse.
asteroid
Take it away,
in the
Sophia.
asteroid belt that often breaks up smaller.
Okay, 2 of the helicopters have already just departed. So the team is already in the recovery process, or at least the beginning phases of it. But right now, we
It's
are
an
waiting to
asteroid
hear
killing
precisely
asteroid.
where the capsule is going to land
Exactly.
before the rest of the teams head on over to that location. Now we are about under 10 minutes away from the capsule hitting the top of our atmosphere, and we are eagerly anticipating this largest sample of ancient solar system material that we have received since the last Apollo mission in 1972. So that is 51 years since we've had
our
such
entire Earth
a
is
pristine
ancient.
and large sample of ancient solar system material. It's a
Solar
really
system
big day
material.
for science, and we're just in the beginning phases of today, but we are certainly excited to hear about what will happen and see those parachutes finally descend through our atmosphere. So yes, we're certainly excited, but this is just one phase of this amazing mission. I'm going to send it back to you, Lauren.
See the operational milestones we're expecting throughout the morning. SRC separation already happened, and the capsule is now heading for its rendezvous with Earth's atmosphere. Jim, it always appears like these operations are simply inevitable. You know, we grabbed the sample, we flew it back to Earth, we're headed in for landing, but it's never that simple, is it?
No, not at all. And so we have a lot of critical events that take masterful engineering. We have to hit the top of the atmosphere, transition through a high G, high heat environment, go from 27,000
Coach
miles
Tree, I
an hour
think they
down to
teach
eventually
people to
11
talk like
for
that.
that safe landing.
Coach Tree
All
said
these
she's
things
annoying, and the
involve
way she
changes in
speaks,
environments,
unfortunately.
forces, things
I
that could
think they
disrupt our
teach them
sample
to
and change
speak
them,
like
which
that,
we
so
want to
it's very
document.
deliberate
And so we
and
really want to understand
robotic.
this and finally bring it to rest so we can then bag
'Cause a
it
lot
and
of people
encapsulate
do.
it so we can eventually
And
get
that's not a
the
natural
sample
way of
into our
speaking.
clean room here. So we're ready to transfer tomorrow to Houston to the Johnson Space Center. So this is a big process, well rehearsed by a masterful team.
Absolutely, and contains, you know, work from thousands of individuals who are making this happen. All right, so we know that you're submitting questions from all over. Let's take a few more social questions. All right,
wait
what
a
do we
second.
have?
Dazzer said I'm
At
still low.
DevSaran
Is
at
my audio still really low?
5342461. Whew. What are the preliminary steps to take to test a sample?
Is that better?
The preliminary steps.
So first thing we do is, of course, bag it here and get it into the clean room and get that sample, that sample canister inside the sample return capsule, get it under nitrogen purge, meaning we flow nitrogen gas so no Earth atmosphere and microbes get involved. That'll happen today, period of few hours. And then tomorrow we transfer to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where all the fun happens at the Astromaterials Curational Facility, where we've done moon rocks and samples of interplanetary dust. and lots of
transatlantic
things.
accent?
Those colleagues in a special clean room, perfectly designed for this mission, will unpack those precious samples in the small sample canister. the small device that was used on the end of the TAGSAM, and they will go through a process to get it checked out, to do early reconnaissance.
Yeah, I know.
And to
I'm
protect
still
it
messing
very
with it from
carefully.
last night. So
That is incredible, and they built that whole clean room. No other asteroid samples before.
Right,
This is the first one.
First ever.
First ever. As the SRC approaches the edge of Earth's atmosphere, we are just moments away from the world's largest ever asteroid sample return. Jim, what are you feeling right now?
I am literally tingling all over with exhilaration. This is a small step for a capsule and a giant leap for science.
It really is,
shut
and if
up.
that's one thing we can impart, that is it. This is a huge, huge milestone, a great achievement. So this is it. We are just 15 minutes away from the OSIRIS-REx sample return, a journey of 7 years and nearly 4 billion miles. The work of thousands culminates in
does
this
that make it
moment.
any better?
Let's turn it over to our mission commentator, James
Voice
Traley, to
wise?
take us through the final moments. James, we're all yours.
Yeah, Lauren, buckle up and get ready for the ride of entry, descent, and landing. This is 13 minutes of crazy descent, punishing crazy deceleration of our spacecraft, starting at 27,000 miles per hour when it enters into Earth's atmosphere, and eventually slowing to a leisurely 11 miles per hour as it descends and lands on the Utah Test and Training Range.
Recovery operations. Helicopters 1 and 2 have arrived at the holding location.
So good news, our helicopters are ready to go and begin those recovery operations just as soon as we have confirmation of touchdown here. And as the sun begins to rise in the west coast, the SRC is going to be streaking across the atmosphere
Tingly.
above San Francisco, California, about 82 miles in altitude. It's going to be coming in hot, over 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, almost a couple seconds after it hits that atmosphere. That's about half as warm as the surface of the sun, to give you some context. But don't worry, our sample will be safe and sound within. We have a heat shield, which is made of a phenolic impregnated carbon ablator. It's a very fancy term to describe what's going on with this heat shield. It basically ablates away or burns away any kind of heat flux that develops on that outer shell, making sure that our sample is safe and cool within. Similar technology that we use with astronauts coming back from the moon or any kind of other landers that we have going into planets and moons. So we're just a couple moments away from this key moment. It's going to be very exciting
Does she
next
work at
couple
NASA,
13
so
minutes
why
here.
was it
And you'll
so
hear a couple
difficult to
call-outs
read
come in from
numbers
just next door
after
in our
that
mission
username?
operations team as they begin to get us ready
because you
for this key
either
moment. It's a
speak
journey
English
of
or nerd,
3.86 billion miles
and
getting
people that
reduced
speak
to the
both are
scale
not
of
very
mere
easy to
miles.
find.
82 miles above the surface of the Earth in San Francisco. A couple key events are going to happen as soon as we get into the Earth's atmosphere. Very quickly we're going to deploy our drogue parachute. This is for stability, stabilizes our descent, and make sure that we are
I'm gonna mess with
continuing
my
to
voice
target
for a
that
minute,
landing ellipse that is
because it
here
does
in the
sound
Utah
very-
Test and Training Range. It is a 36.5 by 8 mile landing ellipse that is here, marked out for that recovery operation. You see on your screen now the mission
very
ops team
deep.
eager at the edge of their seats for that first call out of Earth atmospheric entry. Very exciting moment coming up in just a few seconds here.
All right, let's see if that helps.
We're about 20 seconds away. You see the team at Lockheed now, all standing ready on the edge
Yeah,
of their
and-
seats. This team, I'll
and
remind
they
you, just a
have
few
no
hours
idea
ago,
what's on
gave that command
that,
to
and it
release the
could
SRC
have
on this
something
long journey.
that's
It's been on its own for 4
dangerous
hours.
to
There's nothing
humans.
we
It
can
could
do at
have
this point.
viruses.
It's coming in, rain or shine.
EDO milestone. The SRC has entered the Earth's atmosphere. UTTR tracking assets have acquired.
there. I
And here
think
we
that's
go.
better.
Start your stopwatch right now. We are 13 minutes of
Yeah,
entry.
why is
descent,
Barry
and
White? I
landing.
was in
We
the
have
ship.
that
Damn it, I'm
expected
working on it.
milestone of entering into the Earth's atmosphere. We can see the team at Lockheed, and we actually have a visual now. This is from our infrared tracking camera on the
let's see if that's
WB-57,
any
our
better.
high altitude plane, at about 47,000 feet MSL, mean sea level, getting a great view of that SRC heating up as it enters
See,
into
it's
Earth's
so-
atmosphere. The punishing deceleration that spacecraft, that SRC is
It's
experiencing
so
right now,
deep. I don't want
as
it
it
to be
comes in
that
at about
deep.
27,650 miles an hour.
Let's
You can
bring
see
up
it
my
glowing
mids and see if
brightly
that helps.
in the sky. And in just a few moments, we're going to reach peak heating and peak deceleration. That's at 32 G-forces, punishing G-force on our
yeah.
SRC. A phenomenal view of that streaking SRC coming in across the sky. At this
We'll
point,
bring
we've
these
entered
low
in
ends
over
down.
San Francisco,
See if
California,
that
very
helps.
quickly.
All right, sounds
We'll be
better.
approaching the
Okay.
Utah Test and
Yeah,
Training Range
it's
just a little bit further
I'll
to
keep
the east.
working on it.
Entry was at
EDO milestone. SRC is experiencing maximum heating and maximum deceleration.
So you just heard right there, we're experiencing
It
that
could have
5,000
been.
degree Fahrenheit maximum heating,
Could have been.
burning scalding hot on that heat shield that is protecting
what's up,
our
Jacob?
sample within, and maximum deceleration.
I don't know
that
what
is
the
at
weather's like
32
in
G-force,
California, but-
punishing deceleration from Earth's atmosphere, the drag forces
Hey,
that are
Shani.
acting on that SRC. Once again, as I mentioned, that sample is safe and sound within that SRC, that sample return capsule, as it comes in, burning through Earth's atmosphere.
Take the shot. Take the shot.
You can see our high-altitude plane searching for that SRC. You can see it faintly on your screen there. Our next milestone will be expecting that drogue parachute deployment. That'll be at about 102,300 feet altitude. And as I mentioned before, that will stabilize our descent and slow us from hypersonic to subsonic speeds as we continue to target the Utah Test and Training Range.
Expected EDL milestone. SRC commands drogue parachute deploy.
So we heard that command to deploy the drogue parachute. Waiting to see that visual confirmation, but that is at 102,300 feet. And a side note, at this time, 8:44 a.m. Mountain Time, the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft is at its closest approach to Earth. That will be on to its extended mission visiting the asteroid Apophis in the year 2029, continuing this incredible mission at another world. And in just a few moments, we should enter into special use airspace at approximately 8:46 a.m. That's going to be at 10 miles off the deck here at Utah Test and Training Range. You can still see that SRC on your screen very faintly in the distance. Still quite warm, that fireball that literally was a ball of plasma just a few moments ago when it first entered into the Earth's atmosphere. That SRC
Bobby, it has come down because I'm a little bit behind
6 feet tall. It's a small object, so
this morning.
A challenge to track this as it comes searing into Earth's atmosphere.
I don't know. I haven't seen anything about its success or failure. I've been in blackout.
And in just a few moments, we should be entering into special use airspace. This area was specifically chosen for this mission. It's a wide open, vast desert
I hope
space.
so freaking hard that it's named Osiris, making me feel like
Perfect to land
there's
the sample
impending doom. I know. I don't understand why they use names like that. That they're just
We did, as I
asking
mentioned,
for it,
have
in
a
my
couple,
opinion.
Days of rain here leading up to this event, so the ground is a little bit soft.
Yeah, no worries. We're just gonna name it End of Humanity.
You can see our SRC.
It'll be fine.
Streaking in.
Look at that fly.
This is from our high altitude cam.
That's fast. I don't see any telemetry on it. Zoom focus. That's the... Damn, that's fast.
Our next milestone, we should be expecting main parachute deployment at around 8:49 a.m. Mountain Time. That will be at around 5,000 feet elevation. We continue to track with our high altitude camera here. As I mentioned, that sample is thermally isolated within that SRC, a very complex labyrinth network of piping and tubing leading into that sample canister within that just a few years ago was on the other side of the solar system from us sampling an asteroid Bennu.
And at this point, it's on its own. There's no
this mission as well. Just a few days ago, on the 17th of September, they did their final trajectory correction maneuver, TCM-12. This corrected our velocity by 3 millimeters per second. We see
there's a drogue. Good drogue.
We have confirmed parachute deployment.
Wow. And after an exhilarating streak across Earth's atmosphere, we have parachute deployment. You can see just a sigh of relief from the team. I can hear some applause here. There is that orange creamsicle colored parachute. Just a delight, a sweet delight to see in our sky here over the Utah Test and Training Range. A phenomenal view. Just
bro, use
wonderful to see that
AI
deployment.
to track.
That is at around 5,000 feet elevation above the Utah Test and Training Range. And now this is like a marathon runner savoring that last lap here as we approach the finish, that landing in the Utah Test and Training Range. Wonderful to see that. We continue to track. This is with our high altitude camera still, that WB-57. And we should have a great view from here on the ground. We've got a variety of different tracking assets. And you saw Sophia out at the edge of that ellipse watching from Wig Mountain.
To be honest, you could tell me that's Mars,
could
I
potentially
believe.
have a wonderful view momentarily as well. We'll continue to descend. Our next altitude descent will be at about 4,000 feet. just a few minutes away from getting that sample from the other side of the solar system, from the surface of asteroid Bennu at sample site Nightingale,
Waxing
to the rugged
again.
terrain of the Utah Test and Training
You
Range.
either speak nerd or English. Nerds don't understand
Looks like
that
winds
you,
are relatively low.
you don't
Not a lot
run
of rocking
laps.
back and forth. Those parachutes seem to be perfectly smooth coming down.
It's-
That parachute there.
It's the biggest problem in the scientific
Continuing to
community.
descend, the slight
People
little
can't
bit of
speak
tilt back and forth
English
of our
and
SRC as
translate it
comes to
from nerd.
its resting velocity of 11 miles per hour as it makes that final descent. That parachute deployment was given internally by the spacecraft. All of what you're seeing now is autonomous on board that SRC.
Yeah, they have no impact on this vehicle at all.
And once
at
that
this point.
successfully lands, the teams will begin the next crucial phase of this mission, the sample recovery operations. They've been rehearsing for this moment for months, literally years, really, leading up to this key moment, and are ready to begin those operations to get that SRC into our portable clean room here and extract that sample canister within.
People
According
can't
to my watch,
translate
we're about
any
5
into
minutes away
English, so they
from
keep changing the
landing
meaning of
with
words.
our SRC.
That's exactly right. I
And as we heard a
translate
few moments
IT
ago,
and
helicopters
finance.
1 and 2 are already staged and ready to begin those recovery operations just as soon as we have confirmation of touchdown.
The only boulder in the area.
This is a variable clock, so this could be a little bit faster, a little bit slower as we get closer in. This wind speed here is a variable that is quite hard to predict, especially once you're high up in the atmosphere.
What's up, 3 beers?
We did release a weather
How you
balloon
been,
earlier
buddy?
on this afternoon, or earlier on this morning, rather, to get a profile of our atmospheric conditions. The team puts those into various models as they prepare for this key moment. But once again, they are a little bit hard to predict, a little bit of variability, so we may
Again, this is the
kind of bounce around a little bit on
XB-57.
that
This is
predicted
a
OSIRIS-REx sample return
NASA
capsule touchdown time.
aircraft. It has a suite and an array of cameras, different IR cameras and stuff like that. So
The ground really closing in now on that SRC.
EDL milestone. Helo 1 has visual on the SRC below the chute.
That is phenomenal. Let's see that view here from that first helicopter. They've got visual on the sample return capsule under parachute, that orange creamsicle colored parachute, really bright in the morning light over the Utah Test and Training Range.
it's a little bit,
Great view of the SRC
little bit
we can have now
above
from our
that
helicopter
crosshair.
as it
Nope,
continues
now it's
to make its final
there we go.
descent to the terrain below.
a little
And once
bit
again,
above
just
that
setting the
crosshair.
context for this, when we first hit the
Into
top of
the
the atmosphere,
left.
we were at
If you're having
27,650 miles
tracking
per
it.
hour. We are now leisurely decelerating under our orange parachute to 11 miles per hour.
Oh my God, you could not imagine knowing about this, and you see it
Incredible
while
amount of
hiking,
deceleration
hunting.
there, as Earth's
Till
atmosphere
you
really
start
helped us
shooting
out
it.
quite a bit. Getting that
Well, they
initial
did it on
deceleration.
the Utah.
Our drogue parachute initially stabilized
Military
our
test
descent,
range.
and then ultimately
So-
that main parachute bringing us home.
Theoretically, it could, Digger. I mean, it is OSIRIS-REx.
You can see right in the center of that
The
crosshair,
mission's name.
that is the parachute with the SRC dangling beneath. The team on the WB-57 doing a
EDL
great job.
milestone. We have touchdown. I repeat, EDL. SRC has touchdown.
And touchdown of the OSIRIS-REx sample return capsule. A journey of 1 billion miles to asteroid Bennu
Damn.
and back has come
It's
to
going to
an
have
end,
zombie viruses.
marking
Yeah.
America's first sample return mission of its kind and opening a time capsule to our ancient solar system. Unofficial touchdown time, 8:52 a.m. Mountain. And the team can now breathe an immense sigh of relief. We now have the sample return capsule, the SRC, containing pieces of the asteroid Bennu. You see the reaction there just moments ago as they got that sample back on the ground. This is the team at Lockheed celebrating that momentous achievement of getting that sample from the other side of the solar system at asteroid Bennu. When we took that sample, we were over 200 million miles away from us here on Earth. The long journey back, 1.2 billion miles from asteroid Bennu, back to here with that sample, has just come to a dramatic close. And a little bit ahead of schedule, too. The SRC landing about 3 minutes ahead of when we had originally
OSIRIS
predicted.
is the personification of the underworld
It was in a rush to
fertility,
get
if
back
I can
here,
read today.
carrying amazing amount of scientific information
Osiris
within.
played a double
The
role
team is
with both
eager
a
to
god of
crack that SRC
fertility
open, get the sample
and the
canister
embodiment
within,
of the
and
dead
begin
and
the
resurrected
process of
king.
understanding the origins of our solar system and potentially the origins of life.
King at death became Osiris, god of the underworld, and dead king's son. The living king was identified with
We're not in the
Horus,
clear just
god
yet. A
of the
key
sky.
piece of the mission is about to get underway. This is the recovery operation phase. Once the team has officially confirmed the exact touchdown location,
So
they'll be
Osiris
flying
was
out on 4
Horus's
separate
father.
helicopters and will operate much like a Formula One pit crew, if you will, to recover the SRC, take environmental samples at the landing zone, the LZ. Everyone has a role to play.
No, so
It's going to be simultaneous action as they
Rex.
get that SRC recovered and begin to do an environmental safety sweep, collecting samples along the way. You see our mission ops team just next door.
So OSIRIS-REx is an acronym
Once
because
again,
NASA
remind you
loves
that
their
the sample
acronyms.
canister itself is not actually going to be opened here at Dugway. The next phase
Turn
of
that down
operation
for a
is
second.
simply to get that SRC
Origin,
into the
spectral
portable container that's been
interpretation,
specifically set up
resource
for this
identification,
recovery
security,
operation.
Apophis Explorer.
The team will then remove the heat shield, protecting the SRC and its precious cargo within the entire descent
Osiris.
through the
I don't know where the
entrance
hell the Rex came
remove
from.
the back shell, and then extract the sample canister within the tag sim that just a few years ago collected
Okay,
pieces
so from
the
NASA.
Asteroid Bennu. Today, the goal is to get the sample canister.
Recovery operations.
Origin, spectral interpretation, resource identification, security, Regolith
You see some
Explorer.
big smiles from the team there. They are getting those helicopters out to the landing ellipse now.
And
to begin
then
those
the
recovery
second part of it
operations.
is
The first person to
Osiris
approach the
Apex,
SRC
which is the
Stu
Apophis
Wiley, our
Explorer.
on-scene commander. You see the helicopter, the last of them, taking off from the Wig Mountain just at the edge of that landing ellipse.
So they took the R out of
Helicopter will
Regolith
have a trip
and
out
the
to
EX
find
out of
that exact
Explorer.
touchdown location of the SRC and begin those recovery operations. Stu Wiley, our on-scene commander,
It
will
is
be the
not
first
Fetty
person
without acronyms.
to approach that SRC. He'll do an
I
environmental
love their
safety
acronyms.
sweep, checking for unexploded ordnances. As he mentioned in his interview earlier with Sophia, he understands this range. He's worked here for a number of years. He will brief the team on any possible dangers that would be presented to them as they begin those recovery operations. And then a team member from Lockheed Martin will begin to take gas and thermal readings once the area is safe of that SRC to determine whether or not it is at safe operational levels for the rest of the team to begin the recovery operations. As I mentioned, this is going to be simultaneous action. The team has prepared. They're all going to be wearing these bright white UV shirts, sample recovery shirts. And you'll see them walking out to that sample in just a few moments here once those helicopters land. A great view once again from our high altitude plane. You can see the parachute there next to our SRC. There is a possibility that there could be unexploded ordnances from that parachute. There is a mortar inside that is to fire to disconnect the parachute from the main SRC.
Oh god, that's all they do is
Help
talk
it
about
come to a final rest.
acronyms
It's a bit
for
challenging
everything.
to see from this perspective, but there could be some potential roll marks or skid marks as that SRC came to a rest on the rugged desert surface below. As I mentioned, we did have a bit of precipitation here the other day, so that should make for a nice
I
soft
no longer
surface for that
glow
SRC,
in the
so it
dark.
probably had a nice clean landing there. The team will assess as they get
They
out there
used
and
to,
check
though.
exactly how our conditions are for the SRC and the surrounding area. You heard Stu mentioning
What's
the
up,
team
Jacob
might need
Castro
to wear
over on
some
Rumble?
boots. The operations could get a little bit slippery as they begin to recover that sample. And this is a pristine sample from the ancient solar system. It could hold the clues to how everything around us came to be, from the formation of the planets to the origins of life here on Earth. Needless to say, this is precious cargo, and the recovery team is fully
Oh,
aware
shit,
of the
you want me to
gravity of
send
the
you some?
situation and the
I know you need a
importance of what
snack
they're about to
after
do
all
today
that.
with these recovery operations. You can see it looks like our parachute has come to a stable
No, it
rest.
used to be glowy.
The winds were pretty low today, so it looks like it is not billowing at all. It is almost perfectly flat, at least from this perspective, on that desert
Yeah.
terrain. And throughout all these operations, the crew member safety is paramount. So you'll see the team probably huddle up a couple times as they begin these recovery operations to make sure that everything is safe and continues to be nominal as they make their initial safety sweep. All of this recovery should be a very quick process, usually. They've rehearsed for this again for months. They've been out here all summer really rehearsing for this moment. They did a drop test last month. They've also had
That's
rehearsals
completely
actually
accurate.
containing that SRC, getting it on a sample carrying fixture.
Recovery operations,
So
WB has
the one
located
positive
parachute
is
on the ground.
You just heard
they
that confirmation
really
from
don't
that
want
high-altitude
this.
plane locating that parachute on the ground.
They
This
don't want this
location info
contaminated in
relayed
any
to our
way.
team members aboard
So-
those helicopters as they begin their approach out to the landing zone.
They really are going to try their best to keep it in nitrogen, keep it in vacuum. So that alleviates
We
some
do
of
have that
the
confirmation from
viral
high-altitude
concern.
plane, as you
but
just heard. We're still working to get confirmation from our NASA helicopter. It is on its way out to that landing zone as we speak, so we should hopefully have that view up in just a few moments. You continue to see our team just next door, the mission operations team, all looking at that high-altitude view. Right in the middle there, just pointing around with the UV white shirt, is Rich Witherspoon from Lockheed Martin. He has been leading a lot of these operations for the past couple months. He's been preparing the team for this exact moment.
no contamination until they
Been a
open
great
it.
leader, helping
Yeah,
us
well,
get
that's
ready for
that's
these
the
recovery
goal.
operations.
That's the hope. So what they're going to do is, like I said, they're going to survey the area, send it to China for testing. Actually, they're going to keep
Yeah,
this
so
one in
this
state.
ellipse here, this landing zone
This is
a
very
quite
expensive
large
material.
setup here, and this was chosen intentionally for this mission. It's about 37 miles by 9 miles total, this landing ellipse, out in the Utah Test and Training Range here in Dugway, Utah.
Yeah,
This is
actually,
an
let me.
enormous facility.
So,
Earlier,
so
it's
what's
about
going to
the
happen
size of
is they're going to
Liverpool
take the
All
entire
Industrial
capsule,
Facility.
which
It's
is
relatively flat, very
sealed.
smooth
So
terrain,
it's
this
sealed
desert surface,
inside of
so
a
it's perfect for bringing some
inside the
back,
actual
having that
capsule,
nice
and then
safe
there's a
landing
sample return
on
tube,
the desert
and then
surface.
there is a sterile tube inside of the sample return tube.
Just a few years ago, the OSIRIS-REx
So
spacecraft
what they're
back
going to
in
do
2020
is they're going to come in,
completed
they're going to
its tag
separate it,
attempt, touch and go attempt to actually
separate that
collect the
outside
sample that
gel
had landed in this desert.
in a
When they did that, it
nitrogen-rich
was only on the
environment
surface
in a
for just
clean room.
couple seconds, sending
They're
that
then
sample
going to
11
dispose
centimeters
of
per
that
second. It's a little
outside
bit
gel.
faster than a baby that is crawling.
Then they're
It's
going to
very
bring the
slow
sample
paced.
return tube
Able
in
to successfully get that
to
sample,
probably a
bring it
chamber
from the edge of
where
our
they'll
solar
nitrogen
system
purge it
back to us here
again, just
at
to
the
make sure
Utah
there's
Test and
nothing on
Training
the
Range.
outside. Then they'll open the sample return tube,
You can see our full screen
which
view
will
here of
hold
that high
the
altitude
actual
view,
sample tube.
looking at the parachute at rest on the surface of the desert. This is at
We
the
can only
Utah
hope,
Test and
Ghost
Training
Street.
Range.
Allegedly.
It's a wide open expanse here, and the team has this positional info, and they'll be relaying that to our helicopter teams to begin
So
these
yeah,
recovery operations.
there's multiple layers, and there'll be nitrogen purges, and there'll be clean rooms inside. So
And what you'll see in a couple seconds here, the recovery team,
yeah,
the recovery crews are responsible for securing the sample return capsule.
yeah, the sample is
landing site
sealed,
around it.
but outside the
Helicopter
crap was
SRC
exposed.
to a portable clean room that's located just next door here on the range. And just a little bit later on, it's going to be attached to a 100-foot long line beneath one of the helicopters, and they'll actually be flown to the clean room. This was determined to
So
be
there's multiple.
the
It's
best
kind of
process
like
to transport that SRC
Russian
safely and
dolls. There's
efficiently
like multiple
to take down the
layers
nitrogen
of.
purge and maintain that pristine nature of the sample within. As I mentioned, this is an
The zombies are
enormous
coming,
ellipse,
Piers.
37 by 9 miles. It's a large expanse to cover by car. It's a very bumpy ride out there as you kind of start to make your approach across this rugged terrain.
Yeah,
With the helicopters, it will be
dispose of the
approximately
shell.
a
They
20-minute
might,
flight
because this is a
back with the
historic
SRC
mission, they
contained in a
might
nice
put it on
slow
display.
case.
I know the
That's a
samples
little
are going
late
to
in the SRC
Johnson Space Center because
giving it its
they have the vault
big moment as it
where they
is,
keep the
served its purpose
lunar
at the
samples.
point of getting that sample canister safely here to Earth.
Fed's official sample tester just show up and lick it. I'm not licking this.
Once
A
we
lot of
actually
things
land
I'll
and
lick,
begin these
Bobby,
recovery
but
operations, you'll see a lot of
I'm
team
not
members out
licking
beginning
this.
to take samples, both air and also soil samples from around the area.
So
These
again,
are
so they
pieces
just
of
alluded
interest
to it. So they're
for
going to
the
start taking
simulation team
samples
that
of
will
all of
open
it.
up the
So
sample canister
if
in the
there
coming
is some
days
kind of
out at the
contamination
Johnson
risk, they
Space
can
Center in Houston,
exclude
Texas.
that
They have
from
a
their
phenomenal
sample testing.
curation facility there. And these samples from Asteroid Bennu will join a historic collection of other asteroid materials, including samples from the
Yes.
Apollo mission, samples from both the Stardust and Genesis missions, as well as Antarctic
You can lick
meteorites
it, Bobby.
that were collected by our scientists. In the coming days,
You
we'll
can
actually know
lick it.
exactly how much sample we got back from Bennu. The original mission requirement was 60 grams of pristine sample from the asteroid surface. Based on some very clever engineering, the team believes that they have potentially 250 grams, or 6 times that mission requirement, inside. And so we just heard that unofficial touchdown time was at 8:52 a.m. Mountain Time here at the Utah Test and Training Range in Dugway, Utah. If you're just joining us, you see that view right now from one of our high-altitude planes observing our touchdown location. On your screen, just above that crosshair, is the orange creamsicle-colored parachute that brought us the last part of our journey down to the surface of the Earth. You heard from Jim earlier that that main parachute is about 24 feet across. Fairly large parachute that helped us decelerate on our last leg of the journey. And so we just heard a confirmation actually that the main parachute deployed much higher than was originally anticipated. It was originally supposed to deploy at about 5,000 feet elevation, but it actually deployed at around 20,000 feet, so much higher up.
Wow.
Explain our kind of earlier touchdown time than expected here.
That's not good.
Still has touchdown on the Utah Test and Training Range.
So there was an error. Certainly was.
Team members continue to fly out to this location aboard helicopters. As I mentioned, there are 4 recovery helicopters in total. The mission operations team is continuing to monitor the situation. They're the ones who are relaying us that info about that high parachute deployment, that 20,000 foot parachute deployment. They're going to be assessing the situation from their end here, relaying any possible info over to our recovery teams as they begin to make their trip out to our SRC.
There's just a touch of panic in his voice.
One of the first goals once the team gets out there is to safe and stow the parachute. Begin to mark places of interest, as I mentioned, for that curation team to begin sampling. This is all a very well-coordinated machine, very well-oiled machine that operates in tandem. They've rehearsed extensively for this moment. So we just heard from the team in that mission operations room that they have visual of the parachute, that orange parachute that you saw on your screen moments ago. But we do not yet have visual confirmation.
Did they actually lose it?
Itself. The team is continuing to survey the region, looking for that sample return capsule.
So it broke free from the parachute?
Recovery operations. Kilos 1 and 2 are in the area of the landing site and are in a search operation.
So you just heard that call out from Tim Prizer, who you see on your screen there from the mission operations room. He just announced that Helos 1 and 2 are now at that landing site. They're pointing out something on the screen. I see some smiles. It seems like we might have
okay. They found
information on that SRC in the coming moments. Helos 1 and 2 will be surveying this region, looking for both that SRC and also eyeing up the region, looking at that parachute.
If they lost it, they have to get their paychecks back? Nah.
Ground supported vehicles have left rig and are in pursuit of the landing zone.
So support of those 4 helicopters, that will be the main group recovering that sample. The main helicopter will be actually attaching that sample return capsule once the team has it located and ready to prepare for recovery operations. They'll load that on long line. You can see once again, some team members pointing at items on the screen here. We'll hopefully get confirmation in the coming minutes of that SRC location. Tim Prizer pointing at the screen now, wondering if he has any more information for us on where that sample return capsule location would be. We do have visual confirmation of that parachute, as I mentioned. Rich Witherspoon radioing out to the team, and now we have a view from our helicopter of the landing location. You can see the return capsule
right there.
Dead center on your screen, that kind of dark gray black object right there. And then just to the right of it, a little bit below, is our parachute. It appears to be resting on the surface. We're getting a zoom in now from our NASA helicopter, and you can see now the SRC. At last, we have a visual of it on the surface of the Utah Test and Training Range. I'm sure that is a pleasant sight for the team to see.
Recovery operations. Kilo 2 has visual on the SRC. I repeat, SRC has been located.
And we have visual on that SRC. It appears that the parachute has also disconnected. It's a little bit off from that SRC, disconnecting from the back shell. The SRC appears to be resting on its nose, that heat shield that protected it the whole way down through that entry, descent, and landing. Lockheed is celebrating that moment. I'm sure they are breathing another sigh of relief here. It's been a wild morning for everyone involved. They've been up since the crack of dawn, just a little bit further north from us in Waterton, Colorado. They gave the go command to actually release that SRC that you see on your screen right there from the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft about 4 hours ago. It then ventured entirely on its own and now sits.
Okay, I'm going to pause it real quick, and I'm going to show you guys where these samples will be going. So, this is the photograph that I took. This is Johnson Space Center. This is the lunar samples room, and it is a big vault door, huge vault door. I was looking for it. I found it, so figured I'd share it. And we'll go back. Go back.
Sits on its own for us here in the Utah Test and Training.
I'm sure they didn't.
So now that we have visual, the teams should be able to begin the recovery operations in just a few moments.
That's true. SpaceX would have already broken it up, taken it out.
He'll be doing an environmental sweep. We're getting a nice close-up.
I wish I'd live in Johnson, the lunar samples vault.
There, just a little bit off the edge of our SRC. The SRC looks quite charred up from that entry in. That was expected as we heated up to temperatures over 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit upon entry into Earth's atmosphere. You can see a great visual of some of that rugged terrain out there. Just a sweeping expanse, very panoramic terrain at the Utah Test and Training Range. It's a great location for us to land this sample. The team looking a lot more relieved now that we actually have visual. And we should be able to begin those recovery operations shortly.
What's up, Just Cause? It looks crispy on the outside.
Return capsule are pieces of the asteroid Bennu. We'll be getting access to those samples in just a few days and actually seeing exactly what we got from the asteroid Regolith. This mission continues to amaze me and everyone involved here. The engineering is ingenious for this mission, getting us with a robotic explorer to the edge of the solar system, collecting that sample, safely stowing it, and then actually transporting it back here to Earth.
I mean, especially with the amount of times they rehearsed this. I wish they would have, you think they would have got there a little bit quicker.
Soft, so it looks like it's resting a little bit far off the actual desert. It doesn't appear to have dug in too much with that nose cone from the heat shield.
Oh, that's cool.
You are here with us as we witness this historic moment. It's the first time the United States has delivered samples from an asteroid to Earth. And these samples will be analyzed for decades to come in laboratories around the world. And there is landing of our first helicopter at the site. appears to have a nice soft landing. We're just probably a couple hundred feet.
Recovery operations. Kilo 1 has landed.
That's
at the
true.
recovery site.
So our
That's
first
true,
helicopter,
Beers.
you just
They
saw
were right
confirmation,
there.
And you can see visual confirmation of that landing. We're maybe about 100, 200 feet away, landing away from that
If someone
sample.
lands in a backyard
So a
pool,
little
can
bit
they
of a
claim it
hike
as
for our team
salvage?
members
I
to
would
get
think
out
so.
to that sample
I would keep it.
return capsule and begin our
I'd keep it and
environmental
I'd
safety
cut it up
sweep.
and sell it.
As I mentioned, our on-scene commander, Stu Wiley, will be the first person of the team to actually approach this sample, check the area for any unexploded ordnances, UXOs, that could possibly be out there on the range, and then also make sure that that SRC is safe for our operations team to approach and begin recovery. You can see
What's up, Neo,
where
over
parachute
on
is
that
connected from
Rumble?
the top of that SRC. That is the back shield that you see right there at the very top with that little bit of white wiring still coming out of the top. Our SRC perfectly landed there on the Utah Test and Training Range. So what you're about to see happening next is the process of recovery operations. This is a key moment of today's events to actually get that SRC from out in the desert into our portable clean room here at Dugway. It is crucial that we maintain the pristine nature of this sample that we got back from asteroid Bennu. It could hold the clues to how everything around us came to be, from the formation of the planets to origins of life here, so the team understands just how crucial the contents of that SRC is, and they're going to work as efficiently and as safely as possible to get that SRC contained, wrapped up in thermal blanketing, placed in a sample carrying fixture, and then attached with long line to our first helicopter there. It'll then be transported the long journey back here, a much more relaxing flight, I'm sure, for our SRC, to our portable clean room at Dugway. At which point the team members will extract the back shell and remove the heat shield from the SRC. It's served its purpose. We're mainly now concerned with getting the contents within that sample canister containing pieces of the asteroid Regolith out of that SRC. We won't actually, as I mentioned, be opening that sample canister just yet here at Dugway. The team is simply focused on getting that SRC.
Yeah, they got it pretty close to the road.
Rather, on a nitrogen purge, and this is to maintain that pristine nature and prevent any kind of contaminants from the atmosphere from getting into our sample within.
Recovery operations. Kilos 3 and 4 have been cleared to land at the recovery site.
And the rest of the team is closely behind, ready to land at the recovery site to begin operations. This will be simultaneous action that you'll see here once we have the clearance from Stu Wiley to begin our recovery operations.
No, I said I'm not licking this one. Many things I would lick. This one, no.
At least from this perspective, I'm not noticing really any drag marks or any kind of roll marks, but the team, once they approach, will mark any possible areas of interest where the SRC possibly came in contact with the rough desert terrain. All of these regions will be sampled by a recovery team and will be passed off to the sample curation team at the Johnson Space Center.
Is about when a man loves a woman
and actually open up the sample canister there,
or meets her in a bar late at night.
the contents within and making sure that no possible contaminants from
Bobby
the
will
surrounding
explain
land
the rest to
location
you.
got into our sample. We're getting a wider view now. We should have the helicopters that have landed nearby
Oh, yeah.
to view potentially.
Not many. But this,
Team really taking extra precaution
I don't
as they
trust it.
approach the SRC. As I mentioned, team member safety is paramount during these operations. There are possible potential areas of concern as the team begin these operations, including the temperature of that SRC. You see it looks quite charred there.
it's what
Could
comes
still be a
out
little
when you do
As
the
I mentioned,
cuddly
we get up to
bits.
over 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So as the cool desert air begins to cool down that SRC, we want to make sure that it is cool enough for our team to actually begin those recovery operations. We'll also be checking the gas levels of that SRC to make sure that it is not outgassing.
What's
from the
this?
I'm gonna come.
heating up during that reentry. We'll also be making sure that there is no live voltage present. And we see a view now from our high altitude plane that has visual of those helicopters landed nearby, just at the northern part of your screen. You can see one of them on screen now. The top of your screen there, it is centered up. There is our helicopter, and it appears that we have our on-scene commander potentially walking over. This is once again our high altitude WB-57 shot of our helicopters landed at the LZ, our landing zone. You can see some movement on the screen. It appears some team members might be approaching our SRC at this point to begin those recovery operations, the initial safety sweep. We'll just be observing from this high altitude for the next coming minutes as the team actually will be setting up a camera on the ground for us to observe the recovery operations close up. And a note from one of the team members about the SRC itself. So they have approximately 40 hours. That is the amount of time it would take for any air to get into the sample. As I mentioned before, that sample return capsule is a complex network of piping and tubing inside of it, sort of like a labyrinth-like design, and that is intentional to make it incredibly difficult for any possible contaminants from the atmosphere to get into our sample canister. It's also sort of like a nesting doll, if you will, where it has multiple layers of protection that keep that sample safe within. All of that protective layering, once we get that sample into the clean room, will be shed, and we'll be able to actually access that sample canister within. The main goal, as I said, for today is to get that sample canister on a nitrogen purge. That is to maintain its pristine nature. And we have visual once again from one of our helicopters here orbiting around the landing location. You can see our SRC at the bottom left of your screen and its parachute that helped us get the last leg of the journey down. It deployed a little bit higher than we expected, 20,000 feet elevation. Original expectation was at about 5,000 feet. And this brought us down the last leg of the journey after a punishing initial entry into Earth's atmosphere over San Francisco, about 82 miles in altitude, to now resting on the rugged Utah Test and Training Range desert floor.
Recovery operations. Recovery team is in the vicinity, beginning their initial assessments.
So you just heard confirmation from Tim Prizer that the team is beginning to actually approach the SRC for that initial environmental and safety sweep. You'll soon see our on-scene commander, Oscar Stu Wiley, approaching that sample return capsule. As I mentioned before, he'll be checking for any possible unexploded ordnances. You can see our mission operations team. They have been overseeing all of this morning's events, and they're going to continue. There we go. On screen, you can see front and center there, Stu Wiley, our on-scene commander, and right behind him is Victoria team. They are both wearing personal protective equipment, gas masks. That's for their own safety as they approach, as there could be potential outgassing from that sample return capsule's batteries heating up during re-entry. You can see him scanning the region. He's checking for any possible unexploded ordnances, UXOs.
Recovery operations. Oscar's performing the unexploded ordnance survey.
And you just heard that he is in fact doing that survey right now. You can see him walking around the SRC. This is the first person to come in contact with this SRC since it was on the other side of the solar system. We had sent this on a long journey. It was OSIRIS-REx spacecraft. Finally delivering the sample, he is motioning over to Victoria team, who is shortly going to approach and begin taking some gas and thermal readings. You can see her walking over. It must have given the clear for her to proceed. A little bit closer. Stu continues to pace around the surrounding area. All over here, the team will collect samples. He'll begin to place flags. You can see in his backpack, he's got a couple flags waving in the breeze. Those will be placed at areas of interest for our team members to sample once they arrive and begin those recovery operations. Victoria is now appearing to take out her thermal and gas reading devices. She's taking an initial thermal reading of that SRC as we speak, looking for it to be at an operational temperature of around 100
Recovery
degrees Fahrenheit.
operations. Lockheed Martin Safety is performing hazardous environment assessments.
And you just heard that confirmation. So she is performing that hazardous environment assessment, checking the thermal temperature of that SRC, as well as taking any kind of gas readings to make sure that we are at safe operational levels. She is also leading over. This is Victoria team from Lockheed Martin. Stu continues to sweep the area around her for the safe operation of our recovery crew members. There are several nozzles, valves around the SRC, and so once Victoria has the clear to approach, she'll actually open up some of those valves and insert a gas reading device within to actually take some temperatures. And you can see off to the left of your screen, Stu Wiley is actually safing and stowing away that parachute that helped take us the last leg of the journey. It's great news that that disconnected from the SRC. That allowed our SRC to rest as it is now here on the surface of the Utah Test and Training Range. It appears with minimal dragging.
Recovery operations. Oscar is safing and storing the main parachute.
So Stu is going to get that parachute stowed, placed away, as Victoria is front and center on your screen, beginning to take some of those gas readings to make sure that we are not outgassing any kind of noxious chemicals that could be present from that battery heating up within the SRC. And Stu is walking back to the team with that parachute. So the SRC battery is comprised of lithium disulfide, and as such, the possibility of toxic vapors exists if the battery packaging has been damaged during entry or landing. Discharging could cause potential presence of hydrogen sulfide from those batteries heating up, or carbon monoxide. And so that is why Victoria initially had her gas mask on. It appears she has now actually taken it off, so it appears that the gas readings indicate nominal conditions.
Recovery operations. Lockheed Martin Safety has confirmed no hazardous gas.
And you just heard that confirmation, so the safety assessment is successful. Victoria has confirmed that with her gas readings and thermal measurements of the SRC. They'll then go back over, Stu and Victoria, for a team huddle to prepare the rest of the team to begin the recovery operations and actually get this SRC into our clean room here at Dugway and continue the operations. You can see the Lockheed Martin team, the bottom left of your screen, just overjoyed with this moment. This is years of careful planning and preparation leading to this final phase of getting that sample back here to our clean rooms. I'm sure they've been holding their breath all morning, so they're getting closer to finally being able to take another breath and relax as we actually will begin our recovery operations, a key part of today's events. And you might see Victoria approach over and over once again to that SRC to continue to take gas readings. At this point, she appears to be covering up the back shell of that SRC, placing a Teflon cover over. This is where the parachute actually deployed at the top of the SRC capsule, the sample return capsule rather. She'll also be checking for any possible live voltage. We'll wrap Kapton tape around the two cut cable ends protruding from the back of the SRC where that parachute deployed. You can see her with that covering as we speak, placing it on the back shell. And she has successfully placed that shielding on the back, that Teflon cover. Stu walking around behind, checking the rest of the scene, walking back with the parachute that he now has safely stowed away. And you'll see Victoria opening up a couple gas valves on the SRC, taking those gas readings. Continue to do this throughout the whole process. She's also placing covers on those gas vents too to prevent any kind of contamination from atmospheric particles, particulates entering into that SRC. She's photographing the scene as well too. This is to keep careful note of exactly the procedures that she's going through for her team. So the recovery operations will be getting underway shortly now that the team has conducted their initial environmental and safety sweep. Everything appears to be nominal, which is fantastic. We do, in fact, have that SRC on the ground. The rest of the team will be approaching shortly. But for now, back to you, Lauren and Jim.
Wow. Thank you, James.
Oh.
Can you believe it?
OMG. Touchdown for science. What a great day.
For the folks at home, this is a huge deal, and they did it.
For the first time in history, we brought goodies back home from this kind of object in the history of humanity. So This is big.
This is so huge, and we're all breathing a big sigh of relief. Obviously, we're not completely out of the woods here, and we'll be monitoring what's going on and keeping you abreast of everything that's happening. But for now,
wow,
we made it home.
A great job by that Lockheed Martin team
Yes.
safing that craft.
Fantastic.
What a spacecraft. We have to name her specially.
Yes, absolutely. And that capsule, everything perfect. So while the capsule was making its way to the ground, mission teams...
Recovery operations, all event covers are in place.
All right. So we're making
good.
progress.
We're making progress.
All right. So while the capsule was making its way to the ground, mission teams in the Colorado control room and the mission ops area here in Utah were, of course, riveted by the live images. These teams have watched and nurtured this mission for more than 7 years of spaceflight, and even longer in terms of construction and design. Gosh,
wow,
amazing.
11 years since it was selected to fly. What a job, folks.
Just fantastic. A lot's happened in 7 years. All right, so let's get an update from where the action started this morning. Sophia, tell us everything.
Okay, firstly, I want to say we are so grateful that the capsule is on the ground and in good hands now. Now, from here, from Whig Mountain, I am overlooking the vast landing zone, which, again, is larger than the state of Rhode Island. So, during that time, listening to James's commentary of the capsule coming through our atmosphere, we're all standing on the edge here, looking and scanning through the sky. But just to give you some context again of where I am, I'm about 4,000 feet up, overlooking a vast, ancient seabed. So the mountains that are peppering along the edges over here, they are
okay. So apparently, I just muted myself for like 10 minutes because I forgot that I pushed the mic mute. So.
The sky, it's hard to see.
It was really good, insightful things that I was saying. Promise.
And considering that the capsule has landed on the edge of the landing zone, even though I'm as close as
really insightful. How much would it suck if there was no sample?
I will say I'm a little disappointed, but
it would be bad, but
is in the most capable hands it can be, and that is the most important thing out here. So while I didn't see with my eyes,
they measured and hopefully they have samples. There's also video confirmation that samples were
so back to you, Lauren.
Taken,
Thank you,
but
Sophia. And thankfully,
who knows what happens
from the NASA helicopter.
in space.
Just well done to that team. Thank you for that. So while we're keeping an eye on ongoing operations to prep for the SRC transport, we have
fire all the men,
from
baby.
Someone who keeps a close eye on the entire manifest of the space agency's travels around the solar system.
I was talking, but I mic muted. I was muted on my mic.
Everybody, congratulations to the
Bill Nelson,
OSIRIS-REx team.
nice administrator.
You did it. You designed it. You built it.
Can't even show up.
You carried out the first
Pre-recorded
mission to collect a sample from an asteroid. And after a 2-year journey, it has touched down at the Utah desert. It brought something extraordinary, the largest asteroid sample ever received on Earth. It's going to help scientists investigate planet formation. It's going to improve our understanding of asteroids that could possibly impact the Earth, and it'll deepen our understanding of the origin of our solar system and its formation. This mission proves that NASA does big things, things that inspire us, things that unite us.
Recovery operations, we can confirm that the SRC is not breached.
Beyond our reach. And the mission continues with incredible science and analysis going to come. But I want to thank you all for everybody that made this OSIRIS-REx mission possible. It wasn't mission impossible. It was the impossible became possible. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill Nelson should lick it.
And just as a reminder, we are keeping those operational milestones going, so you will continue to hear that throughout the broadcast. Thankfully, the SRC was not breached. Fantastic, fantastic news. All right, as anyone who pays just even a little attention to modern spaceflight knows, there has been more activity above the planet in recent years than ever before in human history. There are probes like OSIRIS-REx moving around the solar system, observatories looking out into deep space, and satellites closely examining the health and future of our own planet. there are also human explorers. And we are so fortunate to have two of them with us here today. Joining us now are NASA's astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams, scheduled to launch on Boeing's crew flight test aboard Starliner to the International Space Station. Butch and Sunny, thank you for joining us.
We are honored to be
super
here.
exciting day.
What a thrill.
Congratulations.
Absolutely historic. How are you feeling?
Pretty amazing.
It was like, wow, this is what, dreams and imagination is fueled with. This is just amazing. So, it can go from the movies, but this is reality. And we're doing things that people couldn't even believe could
Bill
happen.
Nelson's a
It's
former
amazing.
senator, and he's a good friend of Biden. That's why he got the appointment position.
There's not much better feeling when that parachute opens, I'm telling you. And it was maybe not
It was
equal,
obvious.
pretty close to exciting and intense, and that parachute opened. Oh, it was thrilling,
gotta get
absolutely thrilling.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, that is fantastic. And one of the things that I think will be really interesting is this, of course, this site is being considered as one of the candidates for the Boeing Starliner crew flight.
Right, and that's actually why we're here. It just worked out in our timing for our training and as we're working on Starliner, that we could come and actually view one of our prime landing sites, which is here at Douglas.
Oh, no.
And so that's actually what brought us to the area, so we could be here and sharing the experience with you today.
And we see this has gone so well, we are ready to land.
Recovery
here, too.
operations.
That's the place that our flight
The recovery team is performing their
This
safety
is a
huddle.
beautiful place. It's a beautiful day this morning. No wind. I think the capsule just came right down under the chute, and hopefully we'll have a nice soft ride just like
Let's
this
hope
capsule
so.
too.
Absolutely. And we just got a call out that the recovery team is performing their safety operations. Everything nominal.
So
Sounds good.
you guys will be coming back and maybe someday with samples yourself brought
Indeed.
back by humans.
Indeed.
What do you think about that?
Again, we're in that era of going beyond low Earth orbit now with humans, headed back to Moon and potentially one day to Mars with the Artemis program. And it is a thrilling time, as you mentioned earlier. So much taking place within the solar system, the near solar system now, and it's fascinating. Great time to be in human space.
Awesome.
I think I'd be a little bit nervous to go to an asteroid, so,
Wise
so
woman.
I'm
She's
super
wise.
glad the spacecraft did it, and we'll set the pace and show us how to do it. But I think
Absolutely.
maybe you'll practice a little bit more before we go, because it's
Good idea.
it's a dangerous
Sounds good.
environment
Right.
learning about it. So,
So much
Sunny and Butch, thank you so much for joining us
Oh, we
today.
appreciate
Hopefully
it.
you'll stick around for more of the show.
Yeah,
all
honored to
right,
be here. Thank you.
congratulations,
Thank you, guys.
everybody out
Thank
there.
you
Really
so
appreciate
much.
it. Thanks, guys. Good luck with your flight.
If you've just joined us, this is special live coverage of NASA's OSIRIS-REx asteroid sample return mission. You might be thinking, this doesn't look like a typical NASA facility. And it's not. In fact, it's because of the extraordinary capabilities that we find here, that we find ourselves in the Utah desert in the first place. We're coming to you live from Army's.
This is what I don't like. They don't sell it well, but they try and grift and sell everything
Take a look.
that's coming.
Wow. Absolutely gorgeous. The spaces here are vast, rugged, beautiful. I mean, you got to see a little bit from the NASA helicopter, but that was a close-up in person.
And look at this. We're in this place that almost
Also,
looks like
Neil,
Mars,
if they
but on
didn't,
Earth, we're recovering a capsule with
if there were no samples in, at this point, they're too invested. They would just lie like hell.
And there's the crew out
There's the
there
crew.
approaching that beautiful capsule that did the joyful ride from that top of the atmosphere down. 13 minutes of roller coaster riding, and they're getting it safe and ready to start bagging her to come over to the clean room here.
Wow. And explain, why do we do a landing, as opposed to an ocean landing?
So many of our crews land in the ocean, as
Right.
you know from Apollo. But for this one, we need to bring it back to a place where we can contain the contamination. By landing in the desert here, we can keep the Earth's ocean, all those absolutely wonderful waters out. This is the best place to bring home this kind of capsule. And look at her. She landed perfectly. Looks like a top sitting there.
Absolutely gorgeous. Well, this isn't the first time that NASA has visited Dugway, and it certainly won't be the last. Take a look. When bringing a sample of the cosmos back to Earth, it's important to find a good landing zone that won't
Speak for
compromise
yourself,
the sample.
Biddy. I want
That's why
zombie
NASA
sharks.
partnered with the Army's Dugway Proving Ground. Its vast open space makes it
Recovery
ideal for the
operations.
task.
Science
But
team is marking the
OSIRIS-REx is
perimeter
neither the first
and approach
nor the
path
last mission to land
to the
here. In
SRC.
2004, the Genesis mission landed here at Dugway, delivering our first ever samples of solar wind. In 2006, NASA landed at Dugway again, this time with a mission called Stardust, which gathered samples of interstellar dust. Both of these missions helped fuel our understanding of the universe and wouldn't have been possible without a safe landing zone, just like OSIRIS-REx. After today, NASA and Dugway are looking towards the future, to the Mars Sample Return mission that will once again be bringing a unique sample of our universe right here to Dugway Proving Ground. The U.S. Army and Air Force have been excellent hosts to us for months as we've been preparing for today's landing. That's one of many reasons I'm so pleased to welcome Colonel James Harwell, Army Commander here at Dugway Proving Ground.
Recovery
Colonel,
operations.
welcome.
Nominal SRC recovery operations have
All right, we're
begun.
getting an update. Okay. All right, nominal SRC recovery operations have begun. Okay.
You darn good.
Because this is one of the most protected samples in the world.
Could not have gone any better. How did it, I mean,
This
in
is-
large part due to our amazing partners here with the military.
I mean,
how did it look from your end?
Oh, it looks
60
amazing.
grams
when
and
you
a
talk
couple
about
billion
this
dollars.
isn't just
So,
a Dugway Proving Ground
like,
effort.
this
When
is-
you're sitting here on
these
Dugway
samples
Proving
are
Ground,
truly
the capsule actually
magnificent.
landed on the Air Force's Utah Test and Training Range, and so it's going to be brought here to
And, like, nothing
before
else.
it goes to the
So.
training room. So this is a larger effort than just the Army's Dugway Proving Ground and NASA.
And it looks like it might have landed right.
So I got a note just before this from the commander of the Utah Test and Training Range that it did land on Uter. And so there was a little bit of rivalry there. We were hoping, but it looks like it was on Uter.
Right on the boundary, though.
Yeah.
So close.
So we have a big collaboration at NASA with members of from the Army and Navy, from the military services that have given us the opportunity to go to these great places in space ourselves as people. And can you tell us a little about the training and other fantastic things you do prepares these people to be crew for flying
Sort of.
into space?
It's very
so if you
blocky,
look at it,
almost.
The Army is the greatest leadership lab in the world. The types of problems that we have to solve on a day-to-day basis. And we have some of the best workforce that is available. So here at Dugway Proving Ground, we do chemical and biological defense testing. We're part of the Army's Test and Evaluation Command. And so anytime a piece of equipment is going to go into a service member's hands, it's tested by one of our amazing members of our workforce. But we also do training here. And so it gives a chance for folks to come and do things in a realistic environment. And that really allows them to hone those problem-solving skills.
So that's why the crews are so good who come from the Army and the Navy and Air Force.
Yeah, we'd like to point out it was an Army astronaut this week who went over who set the record.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
there you
right.
go. There you go. Well, we couldn't let you go without wishing you a very happy birthday today. Happy birthday. Today
Thank
is your
you.
birthday, and you got a piece of the solar system. How about that?
I don't think I could have gotten a better present from NASA.
No.
And this is the rarest stuff we've ever had on Earth.
It is. And I mean, when we're talking about the origins of life, and that's one of the I have the coolest job in the world. A couple months ago, I was here and out on the Utah Test and Training Range, we got to go out to an archaeological site and see 12,000-year-old footprints. And now we're going to get to see the...
It might have just been for show.
I think we've set the bar pretty high.
They do air cover
I
missions
think I'm cool today.
all the
I don't
time.
know what we're going to do to top this.
Well, we think you're
I'm
pretty
sure you
cool.
know that.
Yes.
But
Thank you
for
so much
launches
for
and
joining
stuff,
us. We
so
really loved having you.
there
Thanks
could be
so much.
they could be armed, but they're
We have
probably
a
not.
saying
They're
at
probably just for
NASA,
show.
The only way to reach the stars is if we all go together. The OSIRIS-REx team represents pros at the top of their game, but future explorers are just now finding inspiration in today's events. Here at the Dugway Proving Ground, students attending public school can literally say that a sample of an asteroid landed in their backyard. We visited the school to hear their thoughts about the mission and how their teachers hope it might influence their dreams of future exploration.
My name is Deborah Rockmore, and I am the librarian here at Dugway Elementary through high school.
Well, I mean,
I love that Dugway is part of this.
most of the
We have a very strong feeling about Dugway. It's a wonderful base.
essentially they're trying
have
to
it be
connect
a prominent area where this
this
is
to
coming
this
down. It's
asteroid, because
really amazing
they
to
should
us.
all be fairly similar. It should be very, very similar because we all form from the same, our entire solar system formed from the same dust. So if we can date it back and connect it, it will just be really interesting to see the composition of this. So, what it is.
I wish I could see it, but I don't know. I'm gonna try my hardest.
I became interested in the mission because I have the NASA app and I get daily updates on photos, and one day I saw a photo that had that Dugway, Utah titled on it, and I was like, I live there. You hear about exciting things all over the world, and it's cool to hear about, but you kind of never think that you'll be, I guess, directly or indirectly involved with it. But to know that it's just happening here within eyesight is pretty cool.
Let's go OSIRIS-REx.
Go OSIRIS-REx.
Let's go OSIRIS-REx.
Let's go OSIRIS-REx.
All right, let's go OSIRIS-REx. I love that energy.
I do too.
All right, Jim, you're a planetary geologist. How did you get into this? I mean, these kids are just at the beginning of thinking about what their career might be. I mean, how did you do this?
I think all kids are intrinsically curious at birth. My mother said I was interested in space at birth. Don't know how she knew. But in any event, I think we all are, and we follow different
And here's their
pathways.
sales pitch to talk kids into coming to work for NASA. Don't do it. Well, then private.
Like these special samples we've
Private
tracked, which
sector's where
are
it's at.
unique
NASA
in
is a
the venue,
dinosaur.
but not unique in the kinds of materials we have here on Earth, thanks to other asteroid returns. These are the biggest we've ever done, and so we're excited. But I think curiosity is in all of us, and so that's really what it's all about. And these kids are ready to pick up on this energy.
Yeah, we need that future generation. All right, let's get an update from James. James, go ahead.
Yeah, Lauren, so the mission operations team has confirmed that we are able to begin those recovery operations. You've been seeing on your screen in the bottom corner for the past couple minutes, team members beginning to head out and put flags of areas of interest where we'll want to sample for our sample curation team. And also just a note on our parachute deployment, the parachute was set to deploy based on capsule deceleration, and we actually reached that threshold earlier than predicted, and the parachute deployed appropriately, so everything was right there, working perfectly fine. We got that SRC, as you can see, successfully on the ground. It is perfectly resting on the desert terrain, and you see three of our team members around that capsule beginning to place flags to begin to collect samples. The team members here you see on screen are Scott Sanford, Dante Loretta, the principal investigator at the right of your screen there, and Francis McCubbin. These are key curation team members who will help us actually get a lot of these samples of the region there, environmental samples collected and ready to be passed along to our team at the Johnson Space Center for curation efforts there. This is, again, a very key part of the mission. We want to make sure that there is no contamination of that sample return capsule from any possible atmospheric or environmental conditions out at that landing zone, that landing site. And so we're going to continue these operations and actually begin to scoop up some of the samples. And this will work like a well-oiled machine. You'll see in a few moments. Dante, who was just on your screen a few moments ago, is wearing an armband, much like a football quarterback, if you will. He'll actually be kind of reading off the play calls as they go out and go step by step to actually scoop into the terrain about an inch down into the surface of the desert, scooping out a little bit of the rock and dust that's there, placing it into a bag, photographing the whole process along the way, making note of exactly where they collected that sample from. All this information will then be passed along to our sample curation team at the Johnson Space Center as they begin to actually open up that sample canister and see exactly what we got within. This has been a long journey. It's been an incredible morning to witness this live. Just such a stunning feat of engineering to get that capsule back here to Earth with
sorry, I was reading the next comment. Sports ball, that brings kids in nowadays.
Every piece of dust and grain
That might be
sample
Patrick
capsule
Mahomes'
is a
cousin.
PhD thesis waiting to be written. It's a new discovery waiting
Maybe.
for us about the origins of the solar system and our place in it.
It's possible.
And the vast majority of that sample, more than 70% of that sample, is actually going to be stowed away for future analysis. We did the same exact thing.
Yeah, the fact that it's kind of just sitting up like that.
From the moon. A large quantity of those rocks
Eh.
and dust from the moon our astronauts brought back were stowed away for future generations with the expectation that our technology will continue to improve and improve and improve, and then we'd be able to ask questions that we couldn't even begin to fathom. And now the same thing we'll be doing with the OSIRIS-REx samples that we brought back from the asteroid Bennu. A lot of these will be opened up 50 years from now with scientists who are yet to be born, asking questions we can't even begin to imagine. So our team is just huddling off screen now, and our recovery operations will begin. You'll see a number of team members come out here. They'll be carrying with them a carrying fixture. It's a large metal fixture that has been perfectly designed to have our SRC resting within. They'll be bringing out a lot of thermal blanketing that will be used to protect our SRC during its flight back to the clean room here. Again, we want to make sure that that SRC is safe from any
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, it is on a military test rate, so it is secured. But yeah, I don't know.
That SRC bagged and stowed and ready to go on our long line operations for the helicopter will be
I don't understand why there's not more urgency, for one. Like, I understand you have to do sampling. I understand you have to do that kind of thing. But,
getting it to the ground, and now they can really just
yeah, it just,
after all the chaos of the morning.
Seems like there should be more urgency and more positive control with it. I mean, they didn't find it for 20 minutes. Like,
massive sigh of relief.
Just saying.
So as I mentioned, that actual recovery of the SRC will be a relatively quick process, but a number of our team members, including Dante Loretta, our principal investigator, might remain out on the site where you see that SRC on your screen now. They're going to continue to collect samples. Yep. You can see a number of flags placed around. There's some pink flags placed there. There are 4 placed in front of the SRC where the team believes the SRC is potentially dragged along the surface as it came to a rest on the Utah Test and Training Range desert surface. On the back side of that SRC are 4 additional pink flags, and those are our regions for control sampling.
It is.
We'll actually go
It certainly is. It's a red
and compare back
stuffed
to areas
dinosaur.
we believe the SRC did not contact. You can see additionally, it's a little bit hard to make out with
I would think so as well.
Of the desert, but there are a couple white flags present at the SRC. And these are areas of operation for the team to actually be able to walk up to the SRC with the carrying fixture, place it next to the SRC, and actually begin to bag and stow our sample return capsule for transport to the Dugway clean room. So it's been already just an incredible morning. We're now about an hour past landing of the OSIRIS-REx sample return capsule. Just a few years ago, our spacecraft, our intrepid robotic explorer, was 200 million miles away from us on the other side of the solar system. It successfully captured a sample of the asteroid Bennu, stowed it away, and transported it on the long 1.2 billion mile journey to us here on Earth. We experienced an incredible
Okay, so just also a thought. I'm just saying.
On screen here, the Lockheed Martin team, a couple hours before our broadcast started, gave
Little old me, asshole on the internet,
the sample return capsule containing pieces
can stream seamlessly from anywhere that I've ever been. NASA was one of the most impactful discoveries in our lifetime. Cannot keep a live stream going with all the infrastructure that they have right there.
Heating up to over 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit as it encountered the incredible drag forces our Earth's atmosphere presents. We then slowed down under our drogue parachute initially, which kept us stable during our descent down to the Utah Test and Training Range. And then ultimately, at about 20,000 feet off the deck, we gave the command to deploy our main parachute, that orange creamsicle colored parachute that has now actually already been stowed away by our team members here at the Utah Test and Training Range. It's been a really wild journey.
It does. It just feels.
SRC on the ground.
NASA doesn't have a Starlink subscription.
And you see a view of our mission operations team observing our recovery team that is already out on the landing zone, taking samples, beginning to actually prepare the thermal blanketing, the protective layers for our SRC, and you can see we're documenting this whole process along the way. And so these operations will continue for the next couple minutes, or as long as it takes to safely store that SRC and prepare it for long line operations to get it to the clean room.
So the thermal blanketing, why they need it on Earth, because Earth is, you know,
but for now,
well, it's probably 90. 100 degrees in the Utah
James. And just
desert.
a reminder to those watching, we are in an extremely
in open
remote location,
space.
and so if our signal is
It's
breaking
absolute
up,
zero.
it's because we're out in the middle of nowhere.
Pretty close
So we're
for most
doing
of
a
it.
great job, all things considered.
They
one other
are.
thing that
They
I wanted
are.
to address really quickly is that parachute ended up deploying really quickly, did it not, Jim?
It did. It deployed high, and this is a smart spacecraft. That's
So they don't want any boil off or anything to
detected
change.
the acceleration rate, and it decided that it was important to get that parachute out to slow her down so we could make this beautiful, safe landing. And that's the way this magical autonomous.
So they're going to
spaceflight
try and
works.
insulate it
We
so that
adjust
the
dynamics
heat
of the
doesn't
environment.
affect
Again,
the
hats off
interior
to the
sample.
engineers that built those systems in, so we could be home safe, doing what you can see on your screen now.
With a beautiful landing. All right, Jim, let's actually take some social media questions now. Let's get our first one. All right, at CCSV wants to know, will the sample be quarantined like moon rocks are?
Well, in this case, based on a classification of what we call the planetary protection, these samples will not be quarantined in that way. The first moon rocks came back, they were quarantined for a week, out on the carrier and all that kind of good stuff, came back to Houston again very carefully. In this case, we understand the asteroid, the environment. We measured it with OSIRIS-REx, other asteroid samples from our colleagues in Japan, and so we don't have to quarantine them the same way. We do have to protect them, though, from contamination, and there's all kinds of systems in place by our team to allow us to understand the level of contamination. So what we study in science is the pristine asteroid.
That was a great question.
Excellent question.
Excellent
Wait a minute. So they're not going to quarantine these?
SRC is bagged and secured in the handling fixture.
All right, you just heard that the SRC has been bagged, and we are well on our way to getting that to our clean room here at Dugway. Wow, fantastic news. Missions like OSIRIS-REx transform scientific pursuits.
Wow,
into
that's, you guys might be onto something.
Smart, curious
They're
people
not
with
quarantining the
pursue
sample.
answers with creative verve and perseverance.
They were worried
This
about
year,
viruses
Hollywood also had
and
a
things
story
that we
about a
couldn't
crowd of
stop.
people situated around the touchdown point of an asteroid.
With the
And,
Apollo
well,
program,
we couldn't
that's
help
why they
ourselves. We asked the cast of Asteroid
quarantined
City
the
to say
sample
a few words.
before anybody could touch them, get contaminated by them.
All right. Well, it looks like we are having some technical difficulties, but that's okay. We'll definitely get you that video. It's a really fun one.
It is.
Scarlett Johansson, I mean, A-lister.
Yes.
Can you imagine? All right. So let's get an update from our field correspondent, Sophia. Sophia, do you have an update for us?
Okay, Lauren, turns out the landing site really is just over my shoulder. It is just so hard to see through the alkaline particulate out here on the landing zone. But you know what? This is all in great hands, and we are just very thrilled that the capsule is doing well today. So I'm able to see one of the helicopters just circling over there. But for those of you who have just tuned in, I am on Wig Mountain, which is overlooking the ellipse, which is the vast landing zone. And earlier today, the helicopters, which were shuttling our teams of experts and our scientists, departed from here via helicopter once they found out exactly where the capsule landed. And now they're off on their recovery process and are doing what they do, which has been a carefully rehearsed process. So, Lauren, I'm going to send it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sophia. All right. Well, let's get back to that awesome video of Asteroid City. You don't want to miss this. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Jason Schwartzman.
I'm Jake Ryan.
And I'm Scarlett Johansson.
Where are you?
Asteroid City, Farm Route 6, mile 75.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeffrey Wright.
Junior stargazers and space cadets. Each year we celebrate Asteroid Day.
Hey everyone, I'm Maya Hawke.
And I'm Rupert Friend.
And we star in Wes Anderson's new movie, Asteroid City.
In the movie, families from across the country gather in a fictional American desert town for a junior stargazer convention.
I heard there's a real-life reason people will be gathering in the Utah desert this September.
The world will never be the same.
What is happening there on September 24th?
September 24th is going to be a historic day. This is NASA's first asteroid sample return mission and the biggest sample return beyond the moon. Shortly before 9 a.m. local time, the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft carrying precious samples of asteroid Bennu will release the capsule into the atmosphere to lower the samples down to the Utah desert, where scientists are anxiously awaiting the return of these materials.
Wow, that sounds like the plot of a science fiction film.
It's incredible that a spacecraft can go to an asteroid,
Grab some pieces of it and then bring them to Earth.
So what will NASA look for within the asteroid sample?
These pristine asteroid materials will be studied by scientists from around the world. We're going to be looking at the minerals. We're going to be dissecting the rocks, looking at it mineral grain by mineral grain to learn more about how the solar system formed and evolved. We're also going to be looking for water to try to understand how our Earth's oceans came to be. And then finally, we're going to be looking at organic compounds, including some of the basic chemical building blocks of life, to try to understand whether asteroids like Bennu could have delivered the building blocks to Earth, leading to the origin of life on Earth and potentially elsewhere. With the data we obtained from these materials, we're going to be rewriting the textbooks on solar system formation.
Fascinating stuff. But don't fragments of asteroids land on Earth all the time? Why can't we study those pieces instead of a mission to bring this sample to the Earth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, in fact, the Earth is constantly being bombarded by fragments of asteroids in the form of meteorites. But one of the big problems with studying meteorites is you don't always know where they came from, and it also can be contaminated.
Fair enough. It makes sense that we'd want to study something more pristine.
So how will NASA protect the sample once it's on Earth? And can I have some?
Oh, I wish we could have some of these samples. I wish I could bring one home with me to put on my dresser at home. But the reality is these samples will only be for educational purposes in scientific research. The samples will be transported to the NASA's Johnson Space Center, where they built a special curation facility just for keeping these samples safe and pristine.
This is also incredible. I'm so glad that NASA has teams of people that are searching for the answers to some of the biggest questions, like where did life and water come from? Where did our solar system come from?
I can't wait to see what we learn from the asteroid sample OSIRIS-REx is bringing to Earth. Thank you for all that you do.
This is also incredible.
Thank you so much for all you do.
Well, you just said that name. You just said OSIRIS-REx. That was his thing.
That was kick-ass.
How did you do that? I was like, what is this phrase?
I was like,
OSIRIS-REx.
OSIRIS-REx.
Yeah, OSIRIS. OSIRIS-REx.
Wow, talk about that mega wattage star power.
Scarlet,
Oh
wow.
my gosh. It takes a huge, talented team with profoundly diverse skills to design and execute something as audacious as OSIRIS-REx. It takes years of planning and perseverance to see it through from that initial notepad doodle to a moment when the world tunes in to celebrate a huge success. It also takes leadership. And I'm pleased to say that we are now joined by the director of NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, Dr. Mackenzie Lystrup. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here and very happy about the results coming out today.
It is a great day indeed, and congratulations. This is a huge day for Goddard. It must go without saying that you are very proud.
Absolutely. This team is amazing. They've been through so much for so long. Goddard Space Flight Center, the special thing about NASA's Science Center, Goddard, is that we have scientists and engineers working side by side. And so that doodle on a napkin can turn into something like OSIRIS-REx. And scientists like Dr. Garvin here, who's joined us, really help us create a vision with other scientists of how you're going to do the engineering that gets you to this moment that we have today.
And Mackenzie, we have
that whole segment was really gross, but I felt like you had to continue to watch it.
To everything. How did your team in Maryland pull this thing off?
Yeah, we have people who have managed multiple parts of missions over the decades. Systems engineering is critical, and it's one of the things that Goddard really brings to the table. And systems engineering means that we take into account everything about the mission, from the science ideas to the launch to orchestrating the landing here on Earth, but making sure that all of the instruments are working together, making sure that the spacecraft successfully interfaces with the instruments and can carry out its job once it was at Bennu. All of that requires really understanding the entire system. So when we say systems engineering, we're really talking about that overarching, holistic perspective that our scientists and our engineers bring to the table. But it's true that we have some of the greatest scientists and engineers working on space missions, and they pull it off every time.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, you know, really quickly here, Goddard will be one of the centers that will receive a sample, but who else will receive a sample of the asteroid?
Samples are really traveling all around the world. What I think is very exciting about this mission is that we're saving about 75%. And we're not sending that out yet. We're keeping that in storage for future generations to be able to use more advanced methods and instruments to be able to analyze. So about 25% of that material is going to be headed to scientific organizations all around the globe.
Fantastic.
Unbelievable.
Well, thank you so much for
Thanks,
joining us this
Mackenzie.
morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Can't we?
Yes. There's a
Can't we
great
just go
team
get
of
another one?
Scientists, engineers, and so many others here in Utah working to make OREX a success. It should go without saying, everyone here is mission critical, from bus drivers to planetary geologists, helicopter pilots to logistics experts. With all of the natural excitement about the mission itself, let's stop for a few minutes and highlight those in OSIRIS-REx who made it live and breathe. Take a look.
Yeah, this is odd.
Boy, it's really hard not to get a little emotional when you see all those faces. These are a lot of the people that we've been seeing over the last few days, and they're getting their time in the sun. All right, let's throw it over to James for an operational update. Take it away, James.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. So while we've been kind of waiting for the past couple of minutes here, the team has actually successfully bagged and prepared the sample return capsule for the long line operations. You can see on your screen right now, the SRC is bagged within thermal blanketing, and that metal thing you see on the bottom is the carrying fixture. This will then be actually loaded up into cargo netting and prepared for long line operations. One of our helicopters will take flight, carrying the SRC dangling beneath it. The SRC is going to be stabilized with that cargo netting. There is a gimbal that will keep it stable as we begin the flight to the clean room with our precious cargo on board. You'll notice a couple of tape markers on that SRC as well, the thermal blanketing there. Those are pieces of Kapton tape marking exactly where vents are on that SRC for team members here at the clean room, who will once again do gas and thermal readings once it arrives at the clean room. Just once again making sure team members are safe and secure as we begin to continue those recovery operations, getting the SRC into the clean room. And this is one of the last phases of the process of getting our SRC back and then opening it up, finally seeing that sample canister within and preparing that for shipment tomorrow on a C-17 cargo plane to the Johnson Space Center's sample curation facility. And this was a very quick process. I mean, if you're keeping time at home, this was only maybe about 20 minutes that they took to get out there once they arrived and wrap everything up really quickly once they were given the official confirmation to approach, get everything stored, prepared for those long line operations. This really has become second nature for these team members. They really are able to bag and prepare this SRC. And you'll see still quite a few flags around that area there. Once this SRC is flown away from the region, the landing zone, team members from the curation team will remain on site and continue to take samples of that surrounding area. They also have set up off screen here, you can't see it, but there is a air reading that they're going to be taking actual air samples of the area, atmospheric samples. All of this will be cross-correlated with samples that we actually get back from the asteroid Bennu to make sure that nothing from Earth here at the LZ or beyond got into that sample return capsule. And you can see some of those team members who are going to be taking those samples once again approaching the location. Dante Loretta is front and center with them. He has that armband on, and on his left arm you can see it there as he's carrying his bucket that has all of his tools that he needs to begin collecting these samples. It's a very tight procedure that they have to go through to make sure that they are properly taking these samples. You can see they are photographing the area first, documenting exactly where they are collecting the sample from. They then have a small metal scooper that they'll use to actually dig in.
Everything's smaller and much more
A bit of a
expensive.
soft surface out
But
there
you
today.
get
As I mentioned, we did have some rain
right?
that softened it up, so it should be easy to dig in there, grab a bit of sample, and then they will bag that
6-ounce
sample,
bag is like
seal it
$5.
up, and then send that off to the sample curation team at the Johnson Space Center.
Okay.
Admiring the region as well. It's a beautiful, clear morning there today. We've been rehearsing in a variety of different conditions, including in the middle of the summer where temperatures were over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, much cooler conditions. You can see our team members wearing their UV shirts.
Talking about billions of
Much
dollars,
chillier morning
and they
for them
didn't
as they are doing these recovery
grab
operations.
a gator.
And this process does take some time as they go through and collect these samples. They want to make sure that they are accurately documenting exactly what's present at this landing zone for the team members who are at the sample curation facility of the Johnson Space Center. Getting a great aerial view from our NASA helicopter. They've been doing a phenomenal job all morning tracking the action for us, and we don't give them enough credit. We've been training, obviously, all of the science and
Recovery
engineering
operations. The recovery team is moving the SRC to helicopter 1 and preparing for long line operations.
And there we have it. We are going to be moving towards those long line operations. The rest of the team members approaching that SRC that has been successfully bagged and prepared to be loaded into the helicopter's long line. This will be the last time the SRC takes flight. We had a wild flight this morning. You can see two team members lifting that SRC up. It's about 120 pounds total once you have the SRC and the carrying fixture there together. They're going to be walking this over, preparing it for cargo netting, and getting that attached to the long line for helicopter operations. And as I mentioned, this is the last time the SRC is going to be taking flight. It had a harrowing journey this morning coming through the Earth's atmosphere at over 27,000 miles per hour. It is now being carried carefully by a couple team members here. So quite a deceleration from that initial entry, and really just a wonderful final journey for our sample before it is
They just carry it
at the clean room and prepared to be shipped to this to the curation facility at Johnson. And as I mentioned, this view is coming from one of our NASA helicopters. Just like the science and engineering teams have been preparing for this key moment, our NASA helicopter pilots have also been preparing to cover today's events. They're typically down at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, capturing launch coverage from Cape Canaveral. But this past
You
couple
get
months,
why I
they've been
give
out here
NASA
with
so
us
much
at the
help
Utah
now?
Test and Training Range, preparing to document today's events, getting incredible footage for us all along the way. You can see those team members have a bit of a hike to carry it to where it is safe operationally.
Helicopter. You can fly it. So
you can see we have the cargo netting already laid out there. Our representative from Dugway, Jasmine Nakayama, is prepared with that cargo netting. She's going to help the team here get that SRC that has already been successfully bagged up with thermal wrapping into that cargo netting. And you can see the helicopter already there, staged and ready to lift off. The helicopter pilot has actually removed one of the doors on that helicopter so he can lean out and look down as he carefully lifts the SRC off the terrain. We want to make sure that this is a careful, slow process as we safely transport this SRC to the Dugway clean room. You can see Jasmine is picking up pieces of the cargo netting and beginning to wrap the SRC that has been placed already on the carrying fixture with the thermal blanketing. Team members observing their handiwork of getting that carefully wrapped up. We'll then actually unwrap all of that thermal blanketing once we actually get it into the clean room here.
Recovery operations. SRCs in the cargo net, and all the gear has been stowed in the helicopter.
Great news. Everything sounds nominal for helicopter operations, and in just a few moments we should have liftoff of that SRC aboard the helicopter with that long line attached. Team members clearing the area to make sure that we can safely take off with our helicopter. These helicopter pilots have also been training in tandem with all the team members the past couple months leading up to this key moment. We've practiced these long line operations. We've practiced the flight back to the Dugway clean room. But obviously nothing compares to the real deal. I'm sure they are feeling the excitement. They are feeling the nerves as they know how precious their cargo is this morning that they're transporting to the Dugway clean room. See, Jasmine is donning a helmet, and the rotors are kicking on for our helicopter. kicking off some dust as they get up to speed.
Military
It is a
way better
dusty
helicopters,
morning
perfect.
out on
Fast.
the desert.
Yep. Little bell chopper.
And this will be, once again, a very slow, deliberate operation. We want to make sure that sample return capsule is safe as we are lifting it off. The piece that Jasmine is holding in her hand right now is that gimbal stabilizer for the cargo netting. That will ensure that the SRC is not wildly spinning as we get to altitude with our helicopter. These helicopters can get upwards of over 100 miles an hour speed, but we're going to go nowhere close to that today. We're going to be taking this at a slow pace, making sure that SRC can get back safely and securely to our Dugway clean room. You can see one of our NASA photographers, Keegan Barber, taking some great pictures.
Well,
I'm sure
it probably actually did.
phenomenal views of the operations that are going on just across the way from us at the Utah Test and Training Range.
Northrop, Boeing.
As soon as these rotors get up to speed, our helicopter will get off the ground. The terrain is a little bit soft today. Team members were out here yesterday testing out the grounds and
Flatbed tow with
practice
boom arm would
actually
have been
landing
done.
with some of the helicopters.
Yep.
Those skids on the helicopters got about an inch into the wet terrain. It's presumably dried a lot more today. It's the sunny, clear skies have probably helped us out a bit, so it should be an easy liftoff for this helicopter to get into the air and help transport that SRC to the clean room.
It's helicopter. It doesn't matter how wet the ground is. It will be fine.
Of the surrounding area, both environmental, soil samples, atmospheric samples. We'll be continuing to do those operations even as we bring this SRC to our clean room. Just a great view here from our NASA helicopter. And in just a few moments, we should have a stunning view of our SRC lifting off the ground. No part of this SRC
That's true,
comes in
Bobby.
contact with the helicopter. As I said, it's been safely stored in that thermal blanketing. There's multiple layers of that blanketing, as well as a tarp being placed over it. Now, it is also in that cargo netting, thanks to our Dugway representative, Jasmine Nakayama. She's then attached this whole contraption to a long line that will dangle about 100 feet below the helicopter. And I can see a lot of dust kicking up now. The engine's really revving up on that helicopter, and it is off the desert terrain in the air with the SRC in tow.
Recovery operations. Helicopter 1 is cleared to depart the recovery site with the SRC.
And we have clearance to depart the recovery site. This is a key moment of those recovery operations. We're already getting that SRC out of the landing zone and on its way to the Dugway clean room. In just a few moments, that SRC with the long line attached will be lifting off its landing zone. Jasmine assisting with that final part of the lift, and it is now airborne. As I mentioned, a much more relaxing flight for our SRC on its last leg of its journey. We are officially departing that landing zone. Recovery operations will continue out at the Dugway clean room. I see team members waving goodbye. And look at that view. This is a stunning view of our helicopter. This is a long journey ahead. As I mentioned, probably about 20 minutes of total flight time. We may lose signal as we head out there a bit, but for now we have a stunning view of our helicopter carrying the SRC below. And you can see that stabilizer is helping to keep that SRC nice and stable below. We'll continue to track this transport to the clean room, but for now, back to you, Lauren and Jim.
Wow, check out that epic shot. Check it out.
What a ride.
Wow. All right. Thanks, James. The science community has serious questions about asteroids like Bennu for a long time. What are they made of? Do they hold any clues about the origins of life on Earth or elsewhere? And what can they tell us about our past and potentially our future?
It's all about chemistry, Lauren.
It absolutely is. Well, fortunately, Jim, we are joined by somebody who specializes in the kind of chemistry that you'd be hard-pressed to find outside of NASA. Jason Dworkin is the OSIRIS-REx project scientist. Welcome.
Welcome, Jason. Thanks for
and
coming.
Congratulations. What a historic day.
Oh, it's
you
just
must be so relieved.
fantastic, yes. Relieved, invigorated, excited, and
As we
so
all
much
are.
work ahead of us.
Right.
Indeed, indeed.
Fun work.
Fun
Oh,
work.
no, epic work.
Epic work. You must be so excited to dig into the sample yourself. But what makes
Do they
this,
test it
this
for
sample
radiation?
unique
Yeah, I'm sure they.
we've continued to
It
say
was
this
part of
is
their
such
initial
an
scan. Is
important
for
sample from an asteroid. Why is
that
it
hydrogen
scientifically
sulfide and
significant?
So
probably some
Bennu
radiation
is,
scans.
an ancient piece of the early solar system, a leftover component. It's a fragment of what happens when you make planets, and this fragment of rock it contains the ingredients that happen when you make planets, that happens when you make life. So by studying a sample from the leftovers of space, we can study a sample from the leftovers of the formation of the Earth. Look at the chemistry in detail as you can only do on the ground, using instruments that are sometimes bigger than a launch pad, let alone the rock and the spacecraft. So we can interrogate the compounds, the minerals in fine detail to understand
No,
how they
Isabel,
got
no.
and how they could have led to the history of the solar system.
And that's forensic science at its best. But I have a question, Jason, because you're an expert in this. So we're going to save some of this sample so that future generations, future techniques, future people not even born can learn from it in the future as we try to look at our place in space.
Absolutely. That's one of the parts I find the most exciting and gratifying, is that the work we do here will be available for scientists perhaps watching now, perhaps not yet born. They can make choices and come up with their own hypotheses, their own ideas, their own new
Light rain.
techniques.
They're trying to say that without the contamination from our atmosphere, that it might yield a different result. It also might not.
That were collected before she was born, using techniques that were not invented in the 1970s to then answer questions that were thought of but couldn't be answered. And so, since you mentioned forensics, we also have equipped future generations with the information to follow the chain of evidence from the construction of the spacecraft all the way to the collection now and then the distribution.
Awesome, Jason.
Wow, that is so cool.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Good luck.
Careful handling of this asteroid sample is all about getting the most out of the huge effort to visit the object in the first place. Mission planners considered many destinations but settled on Bennu. Let's learn more about why.
How about let's not?
OSIRIS-REx
I've had enough.
designed to
Are you guys
retrieve
good?
a sample from asteroid Bennu and return it to Earth. So, of the more than 1 million known asteroids in our solar system,
Detroit Lions won, by the way. Jason.
First,
Jay.
as a near-Earth asteroid, Bennu is easy to reach.
Yeah, I can't do another hour of this. They're not doing anything spectacular, I don't believe. And we already broke all this down before. We'll see him carry it in.
Sample. So nylon gloves are not to be used. The gloves you see the team members wearing are made out of nitrile, which is safe to be used. And you can see two of our team members carrying that sample return capsule over to our clean room, our camera crew following behind, documenting this whole process. And you can see that cart in the background there. This is to help the team wheel the SRC.
Same spot.
That big metal door there will be open for just a
It
few
is a
moments,
lemon.
And the team will wait just for the dust to settle. It'll kick up a little bit of dust. So they want to wait for that to settle and be visually clean, is the way the team describes it, before they continue to wheel that SRC in further, removing the tarp covering that thermal blanketing protective layer of the SRC.
And we're not going to see the remainder of it once it goes in the clean room. So, all right. So, I think that's going to be it for me today. I don't know if I'm going to do a stream tonight. If I do, it will be Rumble exclusive. We'll wonder where they ended it. Yeah, and then it's just oh, they actually do give us clean room view.
So on that note, we're
On
getting
the
questions
small.
from around.
By the end of January, I've been
There,
told the
so there it is in the
scientists
clean
and
room.
sample leaders will start reporting to all of us what's going on.
And then they just replay it again.
Understanding all the possible sources of contamination.
So
that
that's
we
as far as we're
document
going to
those
get
in the
is
future, and
that
also
in
make
the
sure that
clean
through
room.
all those gates that Eileen's
They
mentioned,
probably won't show us
those
once
samples
they
are
open it,
protected from
but if
any
I can
future
find
asteroid
something,
that
I'll
was
certainly
contaminated.
pass it along. But yeah, so that's Bennu returning to Earth. They are all wearing suits. Yeah, and these guys are all inside the inside the clean room. So maybe it makes more sense. But all right, y'all. If I do a stream tonight, it will be Rumble exclusive. I'll start on YouTube and then go over to Rumble as normal. I want to thank all you guys for watching. Please hit that like. Please hit that subscribe and comment because the algo loves it right now. I'm gonna shuttle you guys over to Kenny now, and yeah. If we get any more information and when the paper actually comes out, I will review the paper and share it with you guys in English. So, thanks for stopping by. Good to see everybody, and I will catch you all later. Have a good one.